My name is Karina Popp, and I don't know what I'm doing, which is the title of my talk. I'm a game designer and developer currently based in New York City, and I made 10 Mississippi, a stop-motion photography game told in 10-second incremental actions about a person's daily routine that you play over and over and over again. I made the prototype for the game in graduate school. I continued to work on it after I graduated, including at the Stugan Accelerator in Sweden, and fingers crossed, I'll have it finished in the early days of 2018. I made 10 Mississippi because I wanted to experiment with using photographs in games, as well as to examine the intimacy of the first-person perspective in games. And that all sounds really nice, right? That's what I say when I want to sound like an artist with a coherent vision. In reality, making 10 Mississippi was never so simple or clear as a few sentence summary. It was done in between odd jobs and teaching and lots of naps and freaking out about rent, and was mostly done in my pajama pants. If anything, the only clear objective in my mind was to answer a question, or a few questions, because that's what creation is to me. Less about the goal and the final product, and more about the journey to get there. To ask questions and learn more about your world, yourself, or your medium. And to be clear, I do have formal questions about games that I wanted to answer by making 10 Mississippi, like how can we best use photographs in games? Or how can we make the first-person perspective in a game more intimate? And I'd love to talk about that sometime, but not today. Instead, I want to share with you the personal questions that I was asking and the answers that I think I arrived at. So, I was asking 3 questions. 1, what do I want? 2, why am I making games? And 3, why am I making 10 Mississippi? So we'll start with the first question. What do I want? I have a confession to make. I didn't start working on 10 Mississippi because I was particularly inspired. I was just drunk in Bordeaux, and I happened to see a tweet about Stugan. To set the scene, it's March 2017. I had a job that was rapidly approaching a position I didn't want to be in, but it was less clear what I did want to do. I had originally gotten my master's degree in game design because I wanted to be a game studies scholar, but academia doesn't pay the big bucks, especially compared to a web dev job, which I had. Cornered, I did what I think most people would. I got super drunk with my best friend. Unfortunately, we didn't have an epiphany as to what my career path should be that night. But we did determine that I should do what any soulful American girl should when she's having a crisis. Go to France. So using that money I earned from my cushy but miserable job, I went to Paris and to Bordeaux. I spent my days in art museums, my nights cooking alone and sipping wine. It was all very cliche, I'm sorry to say. I wrote and drew and took pictures of anything that inspired me. Each photograph was a piece of a moment in time. There was a painting I found enthralling, the reflection of the river, dark sky through the gauzy window in my kitchen, my muddy shoes on cobblestone. They were a distillation of a moment and a feeling. And you're all probably sitting there like, duh, yeah, I've seen a picture before. I've been on Instagram, it's literally what pictures are. But how often do we see this technique in games? So why not put my confusion there? Pour my frustration and my life situation into photographs. Take the pictures that encapsulated my feelings of being stuck and lost and make it into a game. At my current job, though, I didn't remotely have the time or energy to do that. So by the end of the trip, I was despondent. I had gone on this whirlwind vacation to another country as a respite from my job, and in the back of my mind, I hoped I would return ready to jump back in, to make the responsible life decision to continue doing work that I didn't find satisfying and that stressed me out, but paid my student loan bills and would give me health insurance. So it's the end of my trip. I'm a little drunk. I open my computer to Twitter, and there at the top is a tweet about Stugan, a place I could go to work on something that was mine. At the time, 10 Mississippi was a little prototype that I made way back in school. It used photographs to convey simple, everyday actions, but it was a skeleton of what it would become, without much in the way of a robust message. I could channel what I discovered by photographing my trip to France. 10 Mississippi could be about the contemplated moments in life, about my own not knowing told in photography. Why not finish it? Why not make my own games? I mean, The main reason why not is that I'd invariably have to quit my job. I'd invariably have to lose my chance at health insurance and security and finish paying off my loans. But it was a path, it was a direction, and I felt as if I wanted it, to go somewhere and create. So I applied to Stugan, and I got in, and I did quit my job to make a game. But that just led me to question 2. Why make games? So I come home, I quit my job, and I'm not totally unemployed. I do have one class that I teach of undergraduates in game studies. During one class discussion, the topic of why people make games came up, and the students went around the room giving their answers, reckoning with the question of why games, which honestly is a difficult one. Some students had wanted to make games their entire life. Some students believed in the power of technology and immersive experiences. Some just liked watching others have fun. One student raised his hand and asked me, "What about you? Why do you want to make games?" And like the professional that I am, I had totally not anticipated this question. I grinned at the class and told them the truth, which is that I don't know why I want to make games. Perhaps this is difficult to believe, but I hadn't really thought about it. It's a question I kept coming back to as I worked on 10 Mississippi, especially because it's not really a game to some people. When others play it, I'm always straining my hands in anxiety because often they'll turn around and say, "Cool, but this isn't a game." And it happens pretty often. I know I could perhaps change what I call it, perhaps a digital media art piece or a stop-motion interactive experience or something. It would make my life easier for sure, but I don't want to. But why? Because I don't want to make games because I think there's anything better or special or unique or inherently compelling about them. I don't want to make games because they're interactive or particularly immersive or because they're on the cutting edge. I don't want to make games because I've always wanted to make games. But calling 10 Mississippi a game is important to me because the language suits me and it suits 10 Mississippi. To me, the game is a balance between the anxiety of mastery and the slow cadence of exploring a space. It's about learning how to use a system through repeated failure until you can unthinkingly move through each scene, watching them unfold. And I'm inspired by other games, by Dysphoria, by Sybil, Plug and Play, Another World, WarioWare. I want to contribute to a world in which games can be messy and experimental, and evolve in the face of controversy and stagnation. I'm making games because I feel connected to them right now. I want to make weird games, and I want to make games weird. But this just leads to my final question that I confronted while making 10 Mississippi, which is, why am I making 10 Mississippi? Every scene in 10 Mississippi is 10 seconds long, hence the name. Ever since I started working on it, I've gotten into the habit of calculating how long an event is in 10-second increments. Looking at my life as a series of 10 seconds reveals the patterns and idiosyncrasies in everyday life. The way I've always washed my face in the same circular motion, or that I always drink a full glass of water in the morning. It shows how some days I may tie my left shoe first, and sometimes my right. Everything that we as humans do are these small actions that only take 10 seconds. I can and do get caught up in the big questions, but I need to pay attention to the small things too. Despite my frustration at my job, or my quarrels with whether I truly want to make games or not, most of the decisions that I make are stuff like what to eat for lunch, or what to wear to bed. Life is just waking up over and over and over again, which on its face may sound sad, but I've actually learned to find it beautiful. When I began, I had no clue why I was making 10 Mississippi. I barely even knew what it was. But now I think I do. I wanted to make 10 Mississippi as a distillation of these small things, a meditation on the weight that 10 seconds can carry. At the beginning of 2017, I imagined myself working through the year at my then full-time job, but that was kind of it. And I want to be clear, I really miss that steady paycheck. I hate that some months I have to rely on the financial support of my partner. I miss the security. it's irrevocably impacted my future and reduced the choices that I can make. I don't want to make this like a valorization of being a starving artist. But if I hadn't sat down and confronted my own confusion and truly decided what I wanted, I wouldn't have got to teach as much as I have. I probably wouldn't have gone to France. Definitely wouldn't have gone to Sweden or to Austin, Texas to show 10 Mississippi at Fantastic Arcade, and I wouldn't be going to San Francisco later this year to show it at the IGF. I wouldn't have met so many interesting and talented and intelligent people, and I wouldn't be giving this talk to you now. And now I have this game to speak for it. When I look at the final project, I feel like I can see this journey in 10 Mississippi. That it's very much about my confusion and my frustration. It's about the strangeness of living in a big city when you've lived in a small town your whole life. But it's also about appreciating the slow and quiet moments. But maybe I'm wrong. I think that you should play it, and you should question it, and you should find those answers for yourself. Thank you.